Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So I've been making art for a little bit over 2 years now. I started with bismuth, which is this rainbow-colored metal that you see. It's a rather rare metal, actually. It's almost as rare as gold.
Yeah.
Take a guess at how cheap it is, even though it's as rare as gold.
Well, I see it everywhere, so I have to assume it's like pretty easy for the for Joe Schmo to
Much cheaper
attain.
than gold, right?
Yeah.
Is it on par with silver at least?
Probably not.
Yeah, way cheaper, right?
Probably even cheaper than copper.
No, it's not quite cheaper than copper,
Oh, well,
but
there's that at least.
a little bit more than copper, but much less than silver. But it's as
Which
rare,
is a shame
almost
because
as
it's
rare as
really
gold.
pretty.
Yeah, I know, I know. I almost joke that if we were to travel to another planet where the temperatures are a lot lower, bismuth might be a better money than gold because the melting point of gold is so much higher.
Yeah, that's kind of why gold is so valuable here.
Right, right,
It's a
right.
very high.
But imagine if we had a civilization on Mars. Don't you think bismuth would be a better currency? We could have coins that look just like that on Mars.
Yeah,
What do you think? Well, it'd be really brittle though. You don't want to drop it. That's the thing.
they would be brittle.
Right. So that's bismuth, which I sometimes I affectionately call crystalline gold because of its rarity and its beauty. But it only takes if a few thousand people did art like how I did, it's game over. That stuff is going to be about as expensive as gold at that point. So it's because so few people work with it. But take a guess at another application of bismuth besides the art. You'll never guess it. Think about where bismuth is on the periodic table.
I actually don't. I'm not good at chemistry.
That's okay. That's okay. But we owe our freedom to it because the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki contained, well, it's mostly uranium and plutonium, but it contained a nuclear initiator, which is polonium 210, which was made from bismuth, right? It's the next element over from bismuth. It's a add neutrons to it, it becomes a polonium 210. And
It's almost radioactive.
yeah, well, it actually is somewhat radioactive, but it's got a half-life of. Are you familiar with math? 10 to the power of 19
Oh, that's
years.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, with this much bismuth out here, you're probably witnessing an atom decay like maybe once every second or so.
Yeah.
But out of all those atoms, well, but then again, even the air has radon in it. It's,
Yeah.
right. So bismuth was the first metal that I worked with. I actually started working with it because I was teaching chemistry, and I discovered how rare bismuth is. And I thought, hey, I could. Everybody's buying unusual investments these days, right? Precious metals, cryptocurrencies. Why not the other metals, right? And I'm glad it hasn't gone up as much as I thought it might, though, because I'd much rather work with it than to just get rich that one time.
Oh, it's
Right.
very pretty.
Right. And then I started working with a few other metals. This is zinc. Guess where I get the zinc from? You'll never guess where you.
Pennies?
How'd you know that?
Because I know that they're that they're just copper coated.
Right. I tried melting copper one time, but melting point's a lot higher and
Yeah, it's pretty high.
made a
There's
mess.
a reason it's used in electronics.
Right. And then this is a mixture of bismuth and tin, and it pours details a lot better because the melting point is significantly lowered.
Huh.
Right, and bismuth forms crystals, obviously, when it's cooled at just the right rate.
I thought it just formed things because stuff was stuck to it.
No, just about every metal will form crystals. The reason for bismuth is the low melting point. Also, bismuth expands when it freezes as opposed to contracting.
Oh, like water.
Yep. It's one of the few substances that do that. But it makes it tricky to pour things like this because it will expand outward. So just about any metal will form crystals, but bismuth, low melting point, and not very toxic, right? So, which is unfortunate. Most of the low melting point metals are pretty toxic. The only ones that you can melt at home that are not so toxic are the bismuth and the zinc.
I mean, there's one that you can hold in your hand, but it will be a liquid.
Gallium.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it won't stay, and it's somewhat toxic, I would say,
Oh,
compared
it
to
is toxic. Oh, it is toxic.
somewhat, not as bad as like lead or mercury, but
Well, yeah.
you wouldn't want to be ingesting that.
Well, I wouldn't want to be ingesting bismuth either.
Have you ever taken Pepto Bismol?
Oh, right. Oh, that's what that
It's a
name
compound. Yeah, it's a compound of it. And then I started doing, and then later on, I started doing the Mondrian. This is a mathematical puzzle called the Mondrian puzzle. You're trying to pack as many squares as you can into a rectangle of a
That's
certain.
what that is.
So this is 1/2 by 1/2, 1/3 by 1/3, 1/4 by 1/4, 1/5 by 1/5.
I thought it had something to do with Fibonacci sequence.
Right. Usually Mondrian, you do it out of red, yellow, and blue, but I did some holiday colors as well.
That's gonna be fun.
And then I even made one out of wrapping paper over here.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is that, unfortunately, well, this guy wants to add a tariff to all the stuff on the table. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
And, so much of my art, I can't think of one thing on this table that doesn't come from China. Isn't it the frames, the metals, the foil, the wrapping? Even that wrapping paper came from China. And this whole table was from China.
We rely on them for a lot of goods.
Can you believe that everything on this table comes from China? What was that? Well, the concept of the Buddha, yeah, it comes from India. But this guy wants to put a tariff on everything on the table, unfortunately. It's our last chance to buy tariff-free.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right. Mondrian art squares, right. It's a metal called bismuth. It forms crystals when it solidifies. All right, well, I got a YouTube channel. Anyways, please pray for my success by leaving a dislike on this video. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.